I think we are live. Let me just double check for a second. Welcome to our discussion for Diversify the Verse, our April book, even though it's like mid-May now because we've kind of been so super busy lately. So I'm sorry this is just coming so late. And this will also kind of push back our discussion dates kind of until whenever to like have the live shows kind of towards the middle of the month. And I think this kind of works better for me because I'm going on a month-long vacation this summer. So it kind of, the timing works out better for me. But so our book for this month is Challenge Deep. Oh, I forgot to say hi to Alex. Say hi to Alex.
Hey. It's all right. Yeah. I mean, with the book for our May pick doesn't come out till later anyway, so it kind of works out too. So yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. All right, so you want to introduce the book?
Yeah. So the book we read is Challenge Deep by Neal Shusterman, and it is illustrated by Brendon Shusterman. I think his name is Brendon. And this is a book I read back in December, and I absolutely loved it. And it also turned out to be the book for my book club at school for the month of April. So that's kind of how we did that. And Alex hasn't read it. She just got it kind of right before the month, so we thought that'd be a cool book to do. And also, since we've been doing books, I think that have had to do with race and like authors that are people of color or characters that are people of color, we wanted to do something that was diverse in a different aspect. So this one is diverse in terms of mental health. And it's just one of my favorite books, and I am super excited to discuss. Do you have anything to say, Alex?
I think we can go into, I think this would also go into like our first impressions. So like if you guys do you have the link to the discussion questions? You do, right?
I do.
Okay, so the discussion questions that we posted on Instagram are linked in the description box. So the first one is like, what are your first impressions? So I think Belinda already knows, but when I started this book, I was kind of, I don't know, it was just kind of hard to read in the beginning. I feel like because most of it was switching between his imagination and then reality, or kind of his like inner thoughts and stuff. And to me, that was kind of, I guess, confusing to read and kind of confusing to distinguish like which one was real, which one was not. So that was like my first impression of it. And I was still in that like zone of like not, it wasn't really clear to read until page like 100, and that's when I started just like going through it really quickly. So yeah, and then from there I was just really like, I really wanted to find out more about these characters, so I just read a bunch of interviews, and I think like a lot of people did too, just to understand it more. Like I think this is a really good book because it's not like straightforward, and I think that it's like supposed to be hard to read because yeah. So those are my first impressions when I first started it, like in the first 100 pages.
Okay. So I first read this back in December. We're not talking about spoilers right now, so okay. Whoever hasn't read this book, you're still safe. We're gonna do non-spoilery stuff, and then we're gonna announce our book for next month, and then we'll go into like talking stuff. But my first impressions, I read it as an audiobook first, and I absolutely love it as an audiobook. So I definitely recommend. If you haven't read it, try the audiobook version. If you're like read it and you're like, try the audiobook version because it's just so good. And so my first impressions, I think, was that it was just really frightening, I guess, because, you know, we are kind of dealing with reality versus not reality, and the way that it's written, it's just, it kind of feels like you're there living it, especially if you're listening to the audiobook, it feels like you're there, and it's just frightening, and I did not expect that at all going into it, and I also didn't really get that it was about men. Like the first time I heard about this book and I read the synopsis, which I will put it down in our description after this talk. But when I first read it, I didn't know it was gonna be about mental illness. I thought it was kind of like some weird, partially fantasy thing because he's like on a ship to the Marianas Trench, and then all this other stuff. But yeah, I would agree with you that the beginning is kind of confusing, and I think it is confusing for a reason, which I think is really cool. And I don't know, I love this book so much. It's just like, it's like, wow. And like the writing, I don't know if is that a question like later on? I don't think that is. But the writing, I love writings with metaphors, and I love books with multiple storylines going at the same time, because I love like trying to find those lines that connect the two storylines. And what did I just say? The writing, the metaphors. I really love the metaphors. Like, I know for some people it's like poetic metaphors, heavy writing is not their kind of what they like. But this book is kind of heavy on the metaphors, and I absolutely love that, because I don't know, because I think it's just like really cool to see how someone can, how like the lines connect. I don't know.
Yeah, like now that you say that, I'm trying to think. Would you? I'm trying to be like my English major self here. Would you call it like an extended metaphor? I don't know.
Like the boat thing?
Yeah, like the entire the ship, the captain. Would that be like an extended metaphor? Kind of. But like, yeah, just like you said, like, oh my God, like I kind of feel bad because when I first saw this book, and because it was pretty popular when it first came out, or I just saw it circulating, and I didn't know it was a diverse book. I thought it was like magical realism, which is kind of like what you said, like some fantasy thing, because I didn't even read the synopsis. Just by looking at the cover, it looked like a magical realism contemporary book, and I was really intrigued by, I guess, the idea, because in the back it's kind of like very vague. It just talks about you know, he's on a ship, and then he's headed towards, like, I think Challenger Deep is the name of like the deepest part, right?
I think so, or it's just kind of like an area in the Marianas Trench.
So yeah, and then when I read that, I thought it was a really interesting idea, and I wanted to see where the story would take me, which is why I agreed that we should do this book. Also, just because it's a winner of a lot of like book awards. It's been mentioned a lot as a book that doesn't romanticize, you know, mental illness, which I think is super important. So yeah, just going into that more.
Yeah, and I like, it really is like, when you're reading it, you kind of feel like you're there, and you can try to see what someone who is affected by mental illness, specifically the one that Caden is affected with, the one that he's diagnosed with. You can see kind of what is kind of maybe going through someone's mind, you know, like that. And it kind of feels like, it really feels like you're there the way it's written. And I think it just makes it super like powerful, and is one of the reasons why I really love it.
Yeah, and just
other like,
oh yeah, just to like mention, this isn't an own voices book, and we're not considering we're not considering it as like an own voices book. Oh my gosh! All right, hold on, it just started pouring. Okay, but the author Neal Shusterman did get input, and I read an interview that once, you know, Brendon became a lot more, he started healing from, you know, his mental illness. He started asking, you know, his son if he wanted to put his input in a book, not to like necessarily write it about Brendon, but to write about a character that went through the same, you know, is going through the same, I guess, mental illness as Brendon. So I thought it was really interesting. And yeah, I don't know. I just feel like this book has a lot of sentimental, I mean, that's a question for later, how it holds like sentimental value to the family and to, you know, Brendon Shusterman himself. So yes.
Well, yeah, and he did the illustrations. So I mean, it kind of, you know, depends on, like, the own voices is a really tricky but whatever, like a classification. But you do have to acknowledge that Brendon did the illustrations for this book.
Yeah.
So, you know, depending on how you want to interpret that, like if art fits into the category of own voices, you can decide that for yourself, but we won't say exactly what it is. That, yeah. So, yeah, do we have any other like non-spoilery thoughts that we want to talk about, or?
I just feel like I feel like everyone, like I've seen our comments right now in the live chat, it's this Monica, hey Monica, she's saying, I was hesitating picking this book up because, especially since I never read anything by this author before. I feel like it's not the kind of book where it's not like, oh, if it's popular or not, you should pick it up. I feel like just everyone should read it in order to have an understanding of, you know, mental illness and like to what actual people feel. And And yeah, I mean, what did Neal Shusterman write? He wrote the, oh, what is that?
Unwind?
Yeah, Unwind.
He's written like 30 books.
Yeah. What is that, like science fiction?
Dystopian, I think.
Dystopian? So, like, that's, even though I heard of that, and I didn't even know, like, when I first saw this book, I didn't even think the author had written it, the one who had written Unwind, and it was, because they're just so different. They're just in such different categories, but I just feel like it's a really good, like, book that you have to pick up. It's kind of just like that one book that you have to read, you know? I guess, yeah.
I like really love his writing. I mean, the reason I guess why I picked it up in the first place is because I met him last year at Teen LitCon, and I was like, I wanted to get a book signed by him because he's such a prolific writer who is really successful, and I just wanted to have him sign a book. And this book, I guess, was actually no, this one came out in like 2015 or something, but this book I picked up. It's an award winner, so that's kind of like how I picked it up. And I still haven't read anything else by him, but I definitely would like recommend it. I don't think that you need to read anything else by the author to fall in love with this book. And from what I know of his other stuff, I feel like this is definitely kind of different from what he also, like the other books that he's written. So, I mean, either way, I would recommend you read it. It's just amazing.
Okay, okay, so would you like to go into question 2?
Okay. Wait, no, we gotta announce our book.
Oh, we're announcing it right away? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't want to spoil these people who haven't read the book.
True. So yeah, I mean, if you haven't read this book, I probably suggest you don't stay for the rest of the live show. I mean, until after we present our book, because we're going to be talking about like symbolism. We're going to be talking about like characters and everything. So it's kind of going to spoil your enjoyment and kind of going to ruin your interpretation, because I feel like this book is supposed to be like everyone's interpretation, especially with the art. So our book for May is, I think some people already were kind of guessing. It's going to be Flame in the Mist by Renée. Renée, how do you say her name? I say Ahdieh. And yeah, I mean, I already read this because it's an arc, but we're reading it because, well, was it May? I think May is Asian Heritage Month, right?
The Asian Pacific Islander.
Yeah.
Asian Pacific American Heritage Month.
Yeah, so we really want to just, I guess, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I don't get enough of reading. I mean, this is such a great book to choose. Did you know that Asian Lit Bingo was going on right now?
No.
Yeah, I just printed out the bingo sheet. I know, I just printed out the bingo sheet. I'm super excited. This book takes place in feudal Japan. It's kind of pitched as a Mulan retelling, but really it takes place in Japan, not in China. So that's a huge thing. But yeah, this book I feel like Renée Ahdieh, her like true skill is her ability to like blend cultures into a story, just to like mythology and everything. So definitely pick this up. It comes out on May 16th, Tuesday. So if you're planning on reading along with us, that would be awesome, because then we can all talk about it like a book club. But yeah, this is our diverse read. And I'm so excited. I can't wait to get this in the final copy. It's gonna look so pretty.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I get to meet Renée next week. And so if you like have any questions you want me to ask her, make sure you leave those in the comments, and I will ask her and tell you what she says. Also, you know, because it is Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, we're gonna like do Rex with Asian Pacific Islander characters, but I would really like to focus more on like Asian American or Pacific Islander American. So I don't know if it's going to be exact. I think I'm going to do like mix of both authors and characters, because I think that people should know more about it. Are you good with that, Alex? Sorry, I was gonna tell you about this before, but I guess we just ran out of time.
No, it's fine. I definitely like that, because I feel like, we can just do a variety, since I have a lot of recs on my shelf anyway. But I feel like, yeah, what you said is good. I also have just a lot of like random recs on my shelf. So yes. And the book that I'm reading now, oh my god, like I just want to recommend it, but I'm so excited. Okay, so So yeah, let's get into this spoilery discussion. I guess we'll go into questions.
One more, I have a thought.
Okay.
Okay, so like the whole reason, like I just want to say why I'm trying to focus more on like Asian American or Pacific American. I mean, we will definitely like maybe recommend other stuff too. Is because, you know, the Asian story and the Asian American story is different. Like people who have grown up in America and would call themselves more like Asian American versus like people like stories that are rooted in Asia with characters who are in Asia. Like it's a different experience, and I think, you know, it'd be really great to kind of recommend more of that, but we certainly will just recommend everything. Okay, so now we can get started. If you have not read the book and don't want to get spoiled, you should probably go, and we'll just really miss you a lot. Or if you just want to stay, you should just stay, because that'd be wonderful. Yeah.
All right. So we already went through question 1, which is our first impressions. That was non-spoiler. And I will read question 2. So describe Caden's relationship with the ship's captain and what role does he play? Okay. So I guess I will answer first since I read it. So at first the ship's captain, I thought, okay, for me, since the ship's captain lived in his imagination, right? We only met the captain through Caden's kind of adventures on the ship. And I had first thought, because I had read somewhere that most of the characters in this kind of like parallel imaginary world that, you know, Caden thought of were characters from the real world, right? Like that was pretty simple to understand. They were all like mirror images of someone else. So I thought the captain was image of Caden himself. Then that kind of confused me. Yeah. Because wouldn't it make sense, because Caden's like, he's kind of like the captain of his own ship.
Mm-hmm.
But then in reading into further ideas, because I read a lot of discussions and like a lot of interviews, and that wasn't the case actually. So yeah, I'm pretty like, now I'm pretty confused and kind of like, who is this captain then? What role does he play?
Okay.
So yeah, what did you think?
Okay, so first, I think I forgot that when I first read it, that it was like the world in his mind and the world reality. I think at first, when I was just like listening to it, I was listening into the car, so I was like, you know, you're paying attention, but you're kind of not. So like the captain to me was just like, you know, this guy who's a captain who sounds like a pirate, because well, one, he's kind of like a pirate. 2, his voice in the audiobook is like pirate-y voice. So this is why you should listen to the audiobook, because everyone has voices like the captain has like the pirate-y way of speaking, and like the parrot sounds like a parrot, and like the navigator mom is British.
Oh.
And like Callie has kind of an accent because she's got Indian heritage. And yeah, so that's why you should listen to the audiobook again. But I think the captain is like, you know, like you said that you thought that the captain was Caden, and so I never like, that was kind of like a new thought to me, because like in a way he is, because the captain, I think of him as the actual mental illness, which I'm not sure. I have been saying it's schizophrenia, but I'm not sure if it's like exactly explicitly written in the book that it's schizophrenia, or if it's like something kind of like that, but not. Yeah. Like the technical term is not exactly that, so I'm not really sure. But I think I see his the captain as his mental illness, which is kind of, I think, a really cool like way to describe it. I don't know.
I'm trying to see where does it actually mention. I mean, in some interviews, I think it is stated. I read so many, like honestly, I can't even remember which ones I read and which ones I didn't. But yeah, the captain, for me, the captain was a bit, I don't know, he played a big role, but I felt like I thought a lot of the side characters, especially the parrot, oh my god, the parrot, played maybe an even bigger role in the story, especially in the imaginary world. And yeah, I think that's why I really wanted to discuss the captain's role, especially why I asked it as a question, because I was pretty confused. I mean, like, if we describe his relationship with Caden, I feel like he's kind of like the devil on your shoulder. And like, right? Like, he's kind of like that voice inside your head. I truly think that he was kind of like the voices that Caden was hearing in his head. Yeah, and the hallucinations. What are you reading?
I like made this note where I was like, let me try to read my handwriting. Whenever I read books, I kind of take a billion notes. So I did, like, there are parts, I think, where the captain kind of, he says these little things, like, I don't know. There's one, okay, I think there's somewhere on page 281 of the book where it says that the captain, like, needs Caden. And I was like, in my comment, I'm like, of course the captain needs Caden, because he would be nothing without Caden. Like, if you thought of the captain as this, like, mental illness, like, the captain would not exist without Caden, like.
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
Whatever. I'm like, I have way too many notes.
No, I understand, especially this part.
Like, little things like that.
Yeah.
That the captain says. Like, oh, okay. One of the things that I remember a lot is it's coming towards the beginning where Caden asks what's the name of the ship, and then the captain is like, to name her is to sink her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's like a whole big metaphor, which I love, which is kind of like to name the ship, it's like to name the mental illness, and it would be to sink the ship. Like, if you gave it a name, if you diagnosed the mental illness, then you would kind of have a way to proceed with how to help you with that stuff. Yeah. So it's just kind of like little things he says like that I'm like kind of convinced.
Yeah, that does make sense. I just took it a lot less, I guess, like, what is it, metaphorically. I thought it literally as if he was actually, like, existing in this world to lead Caden. And I thought that he did. I thought a lot of things that he did were kind of like not fatherly, but very just like friendly. Well, so he was pretty harsh on him, but I guess for his own good, you could say. I'm not going as far as to say he was friends, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I am reading it for the second time, so I'm like really looking for, because I like know that it's really filled with metaphors and parallels and stuff. So reading it the second time, I was really searching for them. So yeah, I definitely think that this is a book that you can read multiple times and get something new out of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You want to go to the next?
True. Yeah, true. You can go to the next question. I'm excited to talk about this one.
Okay. What parallels can you draw between Caden's visions about the ship and the captain and Caden's life? So I guess this one kind of ties into our last question with the captain. Yeah. And this goes further, I guess. I think it's really, I loved seeing like the parallel people on the ship and in real life. I thought that was like really cool, and I was taking notes like whenever someone would come in, and it would just be like really cool to see how in Caden's mind he has kind of reinvented them, and like how different are these people's like ship version versus like the real life version, which I think is just like really interesting. Visions about the ship life and the captain and Caden's life, and I guess I really love seeing those parallel scenes, especially later on, which I don't know, how far did you get?
Well, I got up to page, I was on 250 something, so I was very close.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I definitely, what I was doing basically was I was kind of like not drawing a chart, but kind of seeing which characters were who. Like, I think it was pretty interesting. Like, what was that doctor's name? I don't know how to pronounce it.
Carol.
Hero, yeah. It's like, no, because I'm pretty sure he was supposed to represent the parrot, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like his name kind of sounds like that.
Yeah.
like I just thought those little things were just so nice to put in, and they kind of made it easier for me to make the parallels, which I thought was pretty like, you know, interesting. And then I think there was another one. Who are the characters? Like I'm just trying to like match up who is who, because I think it's really interesting. And yeah, I love to see that, and also because it didn't explicitly tell you in the beginning of each chapter whether we were in Caden's reality or whether we were on the ship, which I really liked because it was up to like interpretation. It was for us to kind of read through it and kind of like, you know, discover. So that I thought that was also really cool. And yeah.
Yeah. I know, it was just kind of like really cool. Now that I'm thinking about it more, like some people, like their names are kind of the same in the real world, on the ship, which I think is really interesting to think of, you know, like why choose these people to remain the same and why like the other people to be different. Like Carlisle on the ship and in real life is still Carlisle. The navigator is still the navigator, but like, you know, the parrot is Perrault, and Callie is Calliope. Like why are some people the same and why are some people different? Which I think is really interesting, and I guess a thought, like something that does tie Carlisle, the navigator, and Caden together is kind of, I feel like they're all three of them have mental illnesses that are kind of similar. Like I know like Carlisle is has kind of what Caden was diagnosed with, kind of what Caden was diagnosed with, and I think the navigator, I think that he was kind of similar as well. We never really know about the navigators.
And some of the crewmates on the ship were actually patients in the hospital that he was admitted to, right? No, but what I think was interesting was, I don't know if you caught this as well, but I was kind of confused on this, and it's that the crewmates were introduced before he was admitted.
Yeah, that was something we brought up in my like book club. We were like just trying to debate, you know, whether the whole book is like, you know, like a linear timetable.
Yeah, I don't think it was supposed to be linear though.
Or is it like we're starting at the hospital and we're looking back, or like what is going on? Because, you know, like he goes like in the past, but then also I'm like reading it, I think like midway I realized that the entire thing is like in present tense.
Oh, it never changes tense though, right? It never.
I mean, it goes, you know, like from first person to second person, but like it never, I don't think it ever changes from like present to past. Like maybe in like those really like far back flashbacks, but I don't really think so, because I think I don't think he really has like too far back. I think he talks about them like as they're the present as well.
I mean,
I don't know. So that's like something we were talking about too, and I don't know if I have like a definitive answer for that.
I know. I was like looking at different like I guess people's interpretations, and no one had like a clear definitive answer for like why he introduced these crewmates. And at first, when I met the crewmates, I just thought I was wondering, first of all, what was their role, because that's what I always do. I'm like, what role does this character play in the book? I was thinking, and what I thought of was, I just thought they were, I don't know, I thought they were more just figments of his, like, kind of his imagination. I didn't actually think, because I know when we talk about books like this, there's usually a lot of parallels, but I didn't think they actually had any parallels to his reality, because there were no characters to compare them with. Oh, maybe his friends.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And, like, his parents.
Yeah. But he didn't even include his parents in, like, this parallel universe.
Yeah, I guess they weren't really in there.
Yeah, so I thought it was just very, for me, it was very confusing, but also a lot of fun, kind of just finding the answer. Even though we might not have one, it's better to talk about it with someone, you know, rather than just keeping it in.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, should we go to the fourth question?
Yep.
Wait, I got you. Okay. This is a really good one. The fourth question is, what do you think of the illustrations found throughout the book? So for me, looking at it in my perspective, at first when you look at the pictures, like if you just go to any picture, I guess here, let's find one. A lot of the pictures for me, like this one, I'm looking at the one on page 58, where they're talking about, I think where they're talking about Calliope. Calliope?
Yeah, I think that's when he first goes sees her.
Well, first of all, I think they're all really beautiful. I think they're beautiful because they're composed of such simple lines. That's what I really love about them. Like for me, art isn't about how complicated something is. It's about how you can make something so simple into something that like it's just, I don't know. I was really like sobbing over kind of in the middle. And I do like how the pictures were very abstract, and how you could kind of interpret them. But I thought they gave this story that touch of just like, I don't know, you feel like the story is actually like he's drawing the pictures as you're reading it. It's not like they were already there. That's what I felt it was like. It made the story a lot more like realistic and just kind of touching.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I think he used in the author's note, I guess I should have just reread the author's note. But I know that the pictures were all like his son drew them when he was like in the depths. It says that all drawn in the depths. And I think that he used like the artwork as kind of inspiration for some of the things, which, you know, because it's so cool how the artwork in some way fits whatever is happening in the story at that moment. And I know I really love the artwork. I just like that whole idea that I was saying before, like parallel storylines, or like whenever, like in our last book, how there were quotes before every chapter, and I love pictures and stuff because I love trying to find those parallels between all these different things. And I really liked these pictures. I feel like they add so much. And you're right, like they add more like realism to this because, you know, like his son drew them while he was in the depths, and so they like actually portray what he was feeling at that time, and I do think it just makes it so much more real, and I really like them. They're really cool. I would be really cool to see them in color.
Oh wait, you know you haven't seen them in color?
Are they on his website?
Yeah. Oh my god.
Okay, I gotta go check it out.
Okay, wait. Yeah, I should probably send them to you. But yeah, there's this one thing, and I'm just gonna send you the link real quickly because I think this is awesome.
Their computer. Maybe you want to show everyone.
Oh, okay. I mean, how do I do this? All right. I'll like contort. So like this is what, I don't know. Can you see that? Not really.
Not really.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll link them down below, or you can literally just look up, you can go to Storyman and look up Challenger D, like type that in Google because Storyman is his website. But what I really wanted to bring up was this quote that was stated. It says, "There's this thing in my head that I have to purge onto the page before it changes the shape of my brain." For me, I thought that was like such a powerful quote. And in this interview, he talked about how, you know, through these drawings and through his art, he kind of expresses what it feels like to be hospitalized and heavily medicated because, like you said, they were I was about to say Caden. They were Brendon's drawings when he was in the depths of his mental illness. So I think it also adds a lot of like, makes the readers, you know, feel a lot of empathy and just like feelings towards, you know, how it actually feels. It's hard for us as like, you know, like people to understand, I guess. So I think the just art adds a lot of perspective, and I really love them. Just reading about it was so interesting as well. And of course you have the original ones, which makes like on paper, like he literally took the pictures on the paper. So I think that's really cool. Yeah, I added a lot.
I really like this one. The one.
Which one?
The one right there.
What page?
I
see that.
When his brain runs away, and because like some of these pictures you can see directly like how they fit in, and some of them take more thought, and some of them you're kind of like, I still don't see how this fits, but it's still amazing anyways. But I think that was just like really cool how he drew. It was like a brain running away because his brain escaped.
Yeah, my favorite. I mean, since we're talking about favorites,
Okay.
My favorite was on page 87. It's this one. It's like this very abstract. I feel like, because when I read this was actually the one at 87.
The one that says "Don't walk."
Yes.
Yeah.
Because this was about him kind of exploring his neighborhood, just following these signs, just following them randomly. He didn't even like look where it took him, and I just thought it was kind of like even the scribbles, they kind of show the direction of like him walking or all that. It's very up to interpretation. I thought it was it's a very interesting way to see something as simple as following like street signs and stuff. So I thought that was really interesting.
Oh, and also this one I really like.
Because
this was like when they were listening to music.
Oh.
Lounge, whatever. It's on page 214. And you can kind of see like some of the like music symbols on there. Like there's a flat sign and some notes. And I thought that was like really cool how he kind of incorporated that into this drawing, into this story.
Yes, of course you would like the music ones.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Okay, so we didn't really have a question on this, but you're like bringing up like him walking around. How frightening all that was. They're like, in the beginning where he was like walking around or like things were going on. He didn't know like how he got there. Like there was this one part where he was like lying in bed and he's like, your mom calls you for the third time, but you don't remember the first or second time, but you know it's the third time. And things like that, or like when he just like goes walking and he ends up somewhere and he's like, I didn't even realize like I had gone there or whatever. And it's just like, that scares me so much. Just like to not have that control over your own, like all the things that you do and not be aware of it. I think that is just like so frightening, which is why I said this book is so like scary.
Yeah. It's kind of like makes you flinch, yeah.
Yeah.
But like I think another thing with that is that with his writing, I think what Neal Shusterman did so well was that because we can't understand what like Brendon went through and what Caden is going through. He uses observations and the senses to describe stuff, which I thought was really interesting because that's something that we do have control over, what we understand really well. So this specific part, okay, you're probably going to think like, of course, Alex really likes this. It's on page 46. It's when he's in, what's it called? New York. And the way he describes New York is, I swear, when I read this part, I've never felt someone describe my experience, especially being a native like New Yorker for my entire life. So basically he says, in the streets, for instance, I discovered that I never looked at the awe-inspiring buildings towering above them. They move fast and efficiently through dense mobs as if they have a Teflon coat, very rarely bumping into one another. So I thought that was really cool because sure, like the buildings are beautiful. Like there's the Eiffel Tower, there's everything, but we don't look up. It's just like we just keep walking. We just want to get to our destination. And I thought how he caught that observation was just so interesting and just very, very, really nice to read.
Like he knows, like he is so observant and he knows things. Like sometimes like he will like say these little lines where you're like, he knows something is going on, but then he like doesn't. And it's just like,
yeah.
Whoa, what the heck is going? I don't know. But it's just like when because there are like some times where he will say something like he knows that something is wrong, but he just like keeps going on. What was that? I don't know. And I just think that is just like, I don't know. It was.
No, yeah, I think I definitely think that this book was supposed to be hard to read. Like you weren't supposed to go into the book like flying through it. You're supposed to actually be as observant as Caden is and kind of take a very close look into each word. And I really, really like that. It's a reading experience that's so different from like every other book that I've read. And this is YA, right?
Yeah.
It's so for young adults or at least teenagers to be reading this it's good that it's like at a different reading level, but it also encourages like discussion, like because some people might be confused about it and they're going to go to their friends or everything, which is like I'm saying, just like I said for All American Boys, because I feel like for me, at least in New York, we don't have good reading material to discuss, like especially like this, like diverse reading material. This should definitely be included in the school, like, you know, just as like a tip, you know, if schools like wanted to include this in more of the reading. Yeah, I think it'd make a really good discussion.
I mean, because there's so much to analyze. But I found this quote where he's like aware. He says, "I begin to wonder if David looked like me, seeing monsters everywhere and realizing there aren't enough slingshots in the world to get rid of them." But this is like when he doesn't know that he has a mental illness yet, and it's just like those little things like that. That's on page 37. Which is like get me. There's so many like really good like the way he ends his chapters are like all super good. You just end the chapter and you're like, whoa, let me just sit here for a couple minutes and just take in that. And
I also feel like that's what made the chapters. I like how the chapters were made very short because of that. Because even though they were really short, they packed like a punch. Oh, that's so cool. That sounds so cool. But yeah, definitely that was very interesting to read. Okay, next question.
Whose turn is it?
Your turn.
It's my turn. Okay. Oh, this is, I think, one of my questions, maybe. What do you think the transformation of the ship to copper in the first half of the book, or the yacht at the end, symbolizes? I really like I didn't really notice this the first time I read it, but going back the second time, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, whoa. Because like when we're starting out, the boat is just like this really old, you're just kind of stereotypical pirate's ship. It's like all old wood and stuff, and the pirate looks like your stereotypical pirate. I think that's how he describes him. He doesn't describe him as a stereotypical pirate, but I think he's described as what you would think is your stereotypical pirate. And like then the boat overnight transforms into copper, and he gets like kind of a, I think like more of a military outfit. And then at the end, he sees the captain in a yacht, and it is like this super fancy, and then there's like girls there and all that stuff. And I think, it kind of symbolizes the transformation of his mental illness and like how it has progressed. And especially like at the yacht one was like, whoa, because when you think about it, because like a yacht is so like enticing. It's like big and it's luxurious and it's fancy and all that stuff. And like, I'm sorry if I'm spoiling this for you, Alex.
No, it's fine. I mean, I thought I really wanted to talk more about the copper one, because even I think you could be right about how it describes, like, I guess his because the book does describe in the beginning he is kind of descending into this mental illness. It hasn't completely taken over yet, but we see that when he's committed to the hospital, we see that that's where where's the ship at that point? It's almost entering like Challenger Deep, and that's kind of like the turning point of the story. But especially what was the significance with the copper? Like I did read up to that part, and I kind of like examined that part. I'm like, wow, why copper? I mean, he was talking about pennies before and how pennies were gonna be like disappear.
Oh, yeah. He was talking about pennies. Yeah, I was looking back at it right now to see, like what stage like his mental illness is in, like to see how it may correlate to like semi-random transformation of the ship. And well, it's like the chapter around where he says that this is kind of like while he's walking, where he was going through that game before your don't walk picture, where he's just like following all the signs and stuff. And what else is happening? The boss key. Oh, I think this is like when people are starting to notice something about him.
The copper?
What? Like the copper transformation. I think this is when people are starting to notice there's something going on about him, because there's also the part where he was called into the counselors. That comes right before that, and he's doing all of his walking there, and yeah, I don't know. Maybe I have to look at this a little more.
Yeah, because also while reading, especially like I told you, the interviews and the summaries, like no one really talked about that, which I thought was interesting because you asked it as a question. I wouldn't have asked it if like I were like discussing it, but I really didn't think that plays significance. And now that I'm kind of thinking about it, because I mean, of course I didn't read the yacht part yet, so I kind of don't understand that yet. But I think it's interesting. I think you could be right. The copper, that just kind of just makes me wonder. But you could be right. Like it's when people start to see a difference. It's when he starts to take his descent into, I guess, his mental illness.
I feel like then I guess we haven't been able to find the definitive what exactly is happening. But I feel like the whole thing transforming into copper just like is a metaphor for how like the increase of mental illness, I don't know what I'm saying, but just like how it seems to be more prevalent in his life. Like at the beginning, we don't get it as much. Like he still is normal-ish. I don't know how to say this. I'm sorry. I do not mean to be like saying things like if I say anything like if we say anything incorrectly, like we do not mean it. It's hard to try to come up with things on the spot. But I think like this is where it starts really like.
No, where he starts. Yeah, because I think in the reality, like we know that in this entire thing he's starting to imagine, I guess, the ship. But I guess it's where in reality, he's starting to get very paranoid. Does that make more sense? It's starting where he's getting very paranoid and where he's getting very anxious. And his parents start to notice, which is why they start asking him questions. And especially when do you remember when he was taking that science test?
Yeah, that was why he got called into the counselor.
Yeah, and I was really when they described the science test and when he was making all like the scribbles on it, I was in the back of my mind, I was thinking like, wow, I really wanted to see what that Scantron looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know if it's the same, but I just really wanted to know. But yeah, I think that's what you mean when you talk about that. But yeah. So the copper, I think we should do like more like probably ask. I don't know, like talk to the people about like the transformation, but I think that's also something very important to note.
Yeah. I still kind of stick with the idea. I think that the transformation kind of his mental illness and how it transforms and changes. Like the captain is changing alongside it. So and then interpret the captain is as his mental illness. So I definitely think that perspective in reading it, I think that is what it kind of symbolizes. And I just thought it was a really cool way to kind of show that. So do you want to go next question?
All right, I got you. Got you right here. Okay. What do you think of the ending? Did you like it? Would you change it? If yes, then to what? So I didn't specifically get to that ending, but to the part that I got up to, and especially just reading a bunch of the guides and stuff. Oh my God, where'd you go?
I didn't charge my computer. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I think what Brendon did was what I really loved about just the ending in general was that in the end, I'm not completely sure, but I'm pretty sure that Caden doesn't get like better completely. Like they don't describe it as him being completely free of, I guess, the mental illness, right? I don't know. And I really liked how they said it. They said it as something that he's healing from, which I think it's very important to like understand with like especially mental illness that it once you recover from it, it's not like gone forever. People need time to heal. It's not like something that can disappear quickly, which I feel like that's why I really like this, because also with a lot of the books that are like romanticized and glamorized, I feel like they say, oh, when this person comes into your life, it's gone completely and you're a much better person because of that. Like I really don't like that message that's sometimes in mental health books or books that kind of surround around mental health. So that's what I really liked about this one. But I guess you could talk about the specifics.
Okay. I love the ending so much. I read it this morning, which is when I reread, and I was like, I love this ending. Like, how, I guess, why exactly, like, I love it so much. I mean, like, other than besides the fact that, you know, he doesn't say that he's perfectly healed. He isn't, like, about, like, how, oh, like, this is, I don't know, what were you, something, whatever you were saying. I don't really, it's not like that. It's like, you know, he knows, he acknowledges that perhaps in the, like, this will come back. Like, I mean, he has healed for now, but there is still the possibility that it will come back and affect him. And he's like, I guess this is another reason why I think the captain is kind of part of it, because I'm gonna read it. He says on the last page, he will always be reading, I realize. He will never go away, and in time I may find myself his first mate, whether I want to or not. I really like that, you know, that introspection, I guess, that he acknowledges that this might not be the end, like to this, that they may meet again. And I also just kind of like the way it's written. I don't know, it just like feels, I don't know, I just really like the way that, if you read the last couple chapters, I feel like the writing is a bit different. And I don't know, I just love it. And I like, you know, how we don't get an answer to everything, like with Hal. Did you get to the part about Hal?
I don't, no, I don't think so. No, it doesn't matter. You can say it, though. It's fine.
But it's a really big spoiler.
I'm going to read it anyway, yeah.
I know, but I don't want to spoil it right now because it's big. But, like, what happens with Hal, we don't get, like, a definitive answer. With Calliope, Callie. Did you get the part about Callie?
Yeah, no, I understand. And trust me, I read a bunch of spoilers online. That's why it's, like, no difference.
When Callie leaves, we don't get a follow-up with her. And I think, or, like, I don't know, I just, like, it feels a lot more real. Like, you know, there's people that do come in and go with your life, and sometimes you'll never see again. And I don't know, it just felt so real, and I loved it so much, the ending. I don't know why, I just love the ending so much. I wouldn't change it. Like, that was the second part of your question, I guess. When talking with my book club, some of them wanted, like, more answers and stuff, but I like that whole, like, you don't really know.
Yeah, I mean,
it feels more real. Like, you don't know everybody's life, especially when you're dealing with, like, mental illness, how it is different for every single person who is has a mental illness. It is a different experience. It's a different, like, diagnosis. And I don't know, I guess I like that. And I like, you know, kind of how everyone parts ways and goes on with their life.
No,
which the thing I normally don't like that in books. Like, when people, like, you have your group, and it's the end, they all go their own ways, and I'm like, no, we're sticking together. But I really liked it in this book. Okay, you can talk now. I'll stop.
No, yeah, I just feel like, especially, I mean, with those books, it's usually because, like, oh, they're either romantically involved or, I don't know, this book is very different in terms of, I guess, just the way it was written with, you know, the parallels between reality. You kind of you're not, like, I don't know, the only character that I was, like, completely attached to was, like I told you, the parrot was just a mystery to me. I just really wanted to know more. Like, because, like I said, because he was introduced earlier prior to us meeting the doctor, so I was just very interested in who he was, and Caden as well. But yeah, like, I don't know much about the ending, but I'm just saying I don't think it should be changed. I think the way that it was left, how it was very open-ended, and like I said, there's no magical cure that comes in, which I feel like is for a lot of books. I think it also gives, I mean, for people with like, you know, going through, like, a certain mental illness, maybe one that's similar to the one that, like, Caden is diagnosed with, but they have a sense of, like, I guess, hope. They know that although it can go back, it's up to you. You know, you're kind of, like, fighting, and you're brave because of it. You're just, like, you're the one who's fighting it, like no one else is. So yeah, I think that's really, it's such a powerful message to not only like readers of just who you know, like have this, what do you call it? Like same distinction or same kind of experience. It's so hard to explain. If you understand.
Liked how hopeful the ending is. I mean, it's not your happily ever after, everything's perfect ending, but it feels so hopeful and like optimistic, and I love that. I think it comes through with the writing. Yeah. There was something in there that I was gonna say, but I forgot what I was gonna say.
I think, yeah, wait, okay. Okay, I do you want to go into the next one? I'm really, really excited about this one. Well, not excited, but like, just a lot to say.
Is it my question?
Yeah, these are all your questions.
To say. I always forget whose turn it is.
Oh yeah, you don't know what question it is. Okay, so it's knowing that this story is very personal to the author and illustrators' lives and their family. How does this affect the way you view the book? So yeah, I guess talking about it in my perspective, what's interesting is that for me is I was always going into my head about how Neal Shusterman wrote this with the input of his son, because in an interview here, which I think is interesting, I know I'm like referring to all these interviews. So what he says here was, I have to admit I was nervous because it does open up old wounds. I constantly checked in with Brendon to see how he felt, and he would give me notes on the drafts. Using his artwork was crucial. So basically the artworks existed before the book. Did you know that? Yeah. You did? I did not know that. I was like, because so basically the artwork was drawn like by Brendon, and using the artwork, Neal Shusterman wrote a story. Like the pirate ship, the captain was because of the artwork, which I think is, I don't know, it's kind of like brilliant, like in his way of writing it in such a true way, and how he was able to use his artwork and incorporate that. And I can't even imagine how it felt to just. It felt like Brendon, of course, to be included in this project, to kind of feel represented. So, yeah, it just, you know, that's what I told you before. I was like crying.
Oh, that was why you're crying?
Yeah, when because especially reading all these interviews, it's him talking about, because like I don't think there was one. I didn't read one where his son was in an interview, but he was talking about his son and how, you know, he kind of gave this creative interpretation to him, and he did it with like honesty and stuff. It wasn't just like him writing a story of his son's, you know, experiences. So yeah. It touched my heart.
Yeah, I don't think I knew about it the first time until I read the author's note. Which like is, and like going, so yeah, the first time I read it, I didn't know about it until the author's note, and then the second time, of course, like I knew about it, and that did kind of change like the way I read it. But you know, like knowing that this story is something that has, that is part of his life as well, you know, it just makes it more real, and it makes it more, just like it amplifies everything you're feeling. Like how I was feeling, like how I say that this book is so frightening, it's just like, then now that you know that this is a story that has kind of happened to someone's like who exists, like that, it just like makes it even more frightening. And I don't know, I think he's just so brave to put his story, the story of his family, out there. And I just think I'm really thankful that he did, because I think it's really important that we have this, especially in like young adult literature. I think it's really important that we have a book like this. And I don't know, it just makes everything feel so much more real. And I really love how much they collaborated on this book, which is why it's so tricky to classify, I guess, in terms of own voices and stuff, because it was really a collaborative effort, and the pictures and stuff. But I know I really love it. I think it was, I don't know, it's just an incredible book and an incredible story. And yeah. I also have another question. Are you ready to move on to another question?
Wait, yeah. No, also because I didn't read the author's note. Like, yeah, I didn't know, because that was in the end, so I didn't read it. But I love the first, when he says, "Challenger Deep is by no means a work of fiction." It's just, wow. Okay. Yeah, what's the question?
My question?
Yes.
Okay, so this whole, like, I love writing, so I definitely pay attention to writing a lot while I'm reading. And what I noticed is, you know, when he'd go back and forth between second person and first person, and I like marked them all, like, the second person stuff comes in here. And I was just kind of like wondering what you thought about it. If you noticed it at all, because like I definitely didn't notice it as much the first time, but the second time, I definitely like made it a point to try to figure out. I really just want to like graph out this book, like just chart out everything that happens, because it's just like mind blowing. Like, I want to see how it's exactly organized and everything, because it's just genius. But what are your thoughts on that?
Wait, where's the? Can you want to give me specific page number?
Okay. I guess.
Wait, I didn't even notice.
Oh, you didn't even notice. Well, in the beginning, the first chapter is in second person. And
oh my god, yeah, I remember reading this first page and I was so confused. Because I was worried. He's like, there are two things you know. One, you were there. Two, you couldn't have been there.
Yeah.
I think first of all, I think that is referring to how later in the book, how he mentions he's in his body, but he really isn't. Like, he's in his mind and he really isn't, right? Like what you mentioned before, how when things are happening, he noticed them, but he really doesn't notice them. Like, it's hard to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, okay, well, I know this is
like, yeah, I guess you didn't really notice it as much, so.
Yeah, I didn't notice the change, because I mean, if you told me that the entire book was in second person, I'd be like, oh, it's in second person because the author wants to put you in the like the Caden's shoes, like something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, in this specific point, wow, this is really where it changes from chapter 1 to chapter 2, it changes from second person to first person. That's what confuses me. Like, why did he write the first chapter in second person and the rest of most of the book in first person?
Well, there's this whole big section. Let me show it to you. I marked the chapters like this. I marked, lines like that. And I marked second person. I don't know if I caught them all in the beginning because I wasn't looking for them in the beginning, but I started noticing it right here. And what's happening in this spot is like right when he's about to go to the hospital, and right at the beginning where he's like at the hospital and he's starting like the medication. He's like going kind of like in and out of being aware of what's going on and everything.
Yeah.
And this is like when the mental illness is kind of at its height. When he's at home and stuff, like things are like, it's getting like really serious, and like his paranoia is getting really like is really heightened. And I don't know, I just think I love the second person a lot, because like, it is how I was saying, like listening to the audiobook, it feels like you're there, it feels like you're going through this stuff. And I think it's the second person is part of it, and I love it because it just makes it a billion times more scary.
Yeah,
it's like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I feel like, especially with the audiobook, I think what you would do is like when they're saying you'd probably close your eyes and you just let this person read to you, and then you'd probably imagine it.
Yeah. I don't know, because like I feel like for audiobooks, when you're reading the book, like it kind of depends on the book, but when you're reading a book, sometimes when I read a book, I kind of like can see myself there. When I listen to an audiobook, I feel like somebody is telling me a story, and it's really a different feel, and a different way like you put yourself into the book. I don't know, but I'm just like trying to find like a really good example of this stuff, but it is just, I don't know. I thought it was just really interesting, because like you don't get second person point of view very often in writing, and so whenever you do, it's just like writer in me just like wants to analyze it and figure out why and see all the connections and stuff, especially since this switches back and forth. I don't know.
No, yeah. I think that's important. Like, if you didn't bring that up, I probably wouldn't have noticed. Just because I wasn't paying as close attention to the writing style. I was more trying to figure out what was going on when he was describing, because the first part just confused me a lot. So I think it's really important. And also, yeah, now that I reread that part, it just made me feel like he was talking directly to me. I mean, we talk a lot about, like in class, we talk a lot about like why authors make the decisions to write like this, and I think it's a very important distinction between second person and first person when the character is talking, is kind of relaying his experiences, and when he actually, like, let's just say Brendon actually wants you to kind of feel what he's going through, like you said. And now that makes me really want to read the audiobook.
Read it! Listen to it! It's amazing! I just keep telling everyone to do it. Because you can do it. Listen to the audiobook.
Was your first read with the audiobook or no?
What?
Was your first read with the audiobook? Oh, okay. So, because I thought you read it 3 times. Because I thought the first one was like a hardcover, second one was audiobook, and then this is like the third time. Oh, first one's audiobook. Okay. Yeah. You're more of an audiobook person. I, on the other hand, cannot handle audiobooks. I just can't.
Well, I mean, definitely depends on like the narration and depends.
Yeah, no, it's also because what's it called? Audiobooks to me are like music. They're kind of like background noise.
See, like, I have to drive a lot, so that's why I started listening to them. But this is actually a book the first time especially, I try to read to make it go faster. I listen to the audiobook, read book, zoom it forward with the audiobook to make it go faster. And so I was trying to read the actual book at some points, but it wasn't the same. Like, the audiobook is just so amazing that this is a book that I kind of prefer the audiobook to the actual book because there's just like so much more. I mean, when you're reading the actual book, you get more time to stop and think. But when you're like listening to the audiobook, it's like go, go, go. But like it's the whole, I mean, everyone has accents, and when it starts, the world starts to merge and you start to see the parallels. It is just like mind blowing. Yeah, but there is this part where it was like right before he goes to the hospital. Like he's like, okay, so he says, you turn your head, this is on 126. He says, you turn your head to look at her. Her eyes are red. You want to tell yourself it's not from crying. It's from lack of sleep. She hasn't slept. Neither has your dad. Neither have you. You haven't slept for 2 days, maybe 3. They're both missing work. They take turns tending to you. You want to be left alone, but you're afraid to be left alone. But you're afraid to not be left alone. And it just kind of goes on. And it's like in those, so intense, especially in the second person view. And I love it. I just love this book. Okay. That was my question. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, especially with I don't know, of course, what a person with schizophrenia or like a schizophrenic disorder goes through, but I know that in one of the interviews where he's stating that his son did go through mania, depression, anxiety, and like paranoia, and I feel like when especially those parts, those are very exemplary of like what he was going through, what his exact thoughts at the time were. Like you're thinking one thing, but you're kind of not sure of it, and that's the kind of the whole thing with this, where that most of his thoughts, he was second guessing his own thoughts, which I thought was interesting because like I for sure don't do that. Like I'm very like to the point stuff, so I thought it was a very interesting perspective. This entire book basically was an interesting perspective. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. I'm excited to see where the rest, especially just like, I don't know, just the significance of the cover.
Do you know what the cover means? Or like what it
No,
really...
I haven't talked to you about it. Because, wait, okay, we need to talk about this. So, like, on the cover, it says the bottom is only the beginning. So, what I'm confused about, because I kind of still am reeling over like the analysis, is when he went to the bottom, right? Yeah. That was like, would you describe it as like the beginning of his recovery when he finally reached the bottom?
Is that how you're reading this snippet as? I'm still trying to like figure out like, what do you mean the bottom is only the beginning?
Yeah, because that's what I read. Also, when I was reading it, I kind of felt like when he finally reached the end of like Challenger Deep, when he finally reached this point, it was kind of the beginning of his, I guess, going back to the top. Like he was kind of recovering.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I mean, I don't know like specifically the significance of this cover. Like this is definitely like I know I understand that rope, but why is there a bunch of rope at the top?
That's a good question, because maybe it looks like a brain.
Oh, really?
Or a cloud.
Oh. Maybe. I
don't know. Like.
Wait, and look at this. Look what it says.
Okay.
It says, if you look at the bottom, I don't know if you have this. Look at this.
Okay.
Right? It says back cover line illustration by Brendon Shusterman. Where is that?
Wait, what does it say?
You don't have it?
No, I have a hardcover.
Oh, it says back cover line illustration by Brendon Shusterman.
Oh, okay.
What does that mean?
Well, yeah, because there's stuff on the back too.
But in this one, like, I don't know what back cover line means in this one.
Like, don't you like those little lighter lines?
Oh, really?
There's a drawing. I think it's the, what is it? The abyssal serpent thing.
Oh, okay. I see now. Oh, yeah, I see. It's very faint.
That's an actual picture in the book. Or is it? It kind of looks like that. Those seahorse creatures.
Yeah, it's very faint.
Yeah.
What did the ship?
No, like, okay. So do you remember when his family took that? There are so many like parallels in this book, which is why I love it. But you remember when his family took that trip to Vegas?
Yeah.
And they jump off that tower?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, so that was like kind of where I connected it, because it's kind of like him jumping off that tower, but he's not. He's jumping into the ocean.
Wait, that was.
Because I don't think he actually.
That was
what?
real, right?
Which part?
When he was jumping.
The Vegas thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so terrifying.
That is terrifying. I don't know why. I would have not done it. I know his dad was kind of drunk and like kind of.
Yeah, his dad was like, "Oh, him."
I don't know. It's just like crazy how many parallels there are in his life, and like his mom, you know, broke her shoe in Vegas, and the scarecrow nose is his mom's broken heel.
Oh yeah, that was. Oh my God, that was. Yeah, there are a lot of parallels, which I really liked. I think it adds just so much to the story. It like interpretation, like I said, it's like in the reader's hands. Wow, okay, Belinda, yeah. You've been so good on recommendations this year.
Well, thanks. I'm glad you like my books that I've been recommending. It's always kind of my fear. Cause I'll recommend books and people are like, I didn't like it. I mean, not every book is for every person. Like I know there are some people in my book club who just had trouble with this book, and I think the beginning is definitely a hard beginning because I feel like it's meant to be confusing. So if you don't stick in it to like around 100 or something, like if you come into this book completely blind without like really wanting to get through it, it's going to be kind of a challenge at the beginning.
Oh, yeah. So what I was about to say with this is I think this also has a lot of similarities to, there was another thing that I read in class. I forgot what it's called, but what we talked about was that why it was like so, oh, I know. Okay, so it basically called, wait, let a burp. Okay, it's called Beloved by Toni Morrison. Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay, well, it's a book that talks about like slavery. And what we talked about in class was it was literally so hard to read, like to interpret. And for me, I was just like, what is this? It's so exhausting. But we talked about how the author intentionally made it hard to read because that's how the people felt, like in slavery. That's what they were going through, and it wasn't easy for them either. So that's what made it so hard to read. The author wanted to kind of feel the same thing, and I thought that was so relevant to this story.
Yeah, like it's written in a way where you're supposed to kind of go through the same thing, because like he's definitely kind of like confused, like he doesn't really get it in the beginning, and so going into this, like you are confused. Like even me reading it the second time, I was like, what exactly is going on right now? Because it just goes in and out, and at that point the worlds are so separate that it's just like we're here. Now we're all the way over here, but now we're here and stuff like it. It's just kind of confusing to try to find the continuous storyline in each storyline, especially when the chapters are changing so quickly.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I thought that was, it just really made me also feel that Neal Shusterman put a lot of more thought into his writing, not only what his, like, reflecting his son's experiences on the page, but also what he wanted the audience to feel when they were reading it, which I think is so thoughtful. Like now, holy crap, like I even said with like The Secret of a Heart Note, the way she did her writing, it makes me want to read every other book. Like just reading his writing now and his thoughtfulness into writing this book, it makes me want to pick up every other like Neal Shusterman book, even though his other ones are like dystopian science fiction or very different. But yeah, he just pays a lot of attention to his kind of, and I just loved the message of it, how he's an author. He wanted to use, I guess, these writing skills that he had and kind of his audience and his platform to bring a book that has so much meaning and to kind of relate this story. So yeah, it was just, it's so.
Do you have any other
what?
Thoughts? Do you have any other questions or thoughts?
Oh, no, not really.
Okay, I'm trying to think, but I can't really think of anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad you liked it. Really glad you liked it, and I hope that people were reading it, because this is a book I definitely like. It's not as popular because it's not as new, but it is really amazing and worth reading and sticking through. People who are like having problems and getting through it, I definitely recommend the audiobook. People who've read it, definitely recommend the audiobook.
Yeah. No, and I also think it's important. I mean, I don't think anyone who's watching up to this point is. I mean, I'm pretty sure, like, if you're still like sticking around, you probably already read it. But if you have like friends, I guess, who haven't read it and they want a good book recommendation, I feel like it's perfect to recommend for them, because one, they're reading something that's totally different from anything else, but second, you're also there as someone to talk to, because this is the kind of book where you can go in, it's not being discussed, like you need to talk to someone. So I think it's an awesome thing to recommend to them, because you can personally be there to discuss it. Oh, my battery. Let me charge this.
Yeah. I don't know, it's like there's so many things to discuss, but like, sometimes when you discuss it, you're like, what do I even discuss? Because it's just, I don't know. It's really a personal journey you go through while reading this book, and it makes you really think and reflect yourself and your life and how people see the world. Oh, here's one thing that I thought of. Well, just, I don't know, and it's not really a question, but maybe I can spin it into a question. How everyone at the beginning is kind of before they realize that it is mental illness, how they first go to Caden being on drugs, and just like how the way that other people treat him when they see him like on the street or whatever, and they're like, this is someone that we should avoid because he's completely crazy and lost it. And I just thought, like reading it kind of made me mad and upset, like how this, I mean, like, I totally get how possibly that is a more common conclusion for people who don't really know, random people, to think, but just, to consider the idea of like mental illness, and I don't know what I'm going with this.
Oh no, I understand. You mean like it's like, oh, I like it's easier to assume that someone's on drugs rather than like that they're somehow like entangled in a mental illness, like kind of like that.
Something like that. I don't know. But it was just something, it was a thought going through my mind.
I think it was a lot of people. I mean, okay, so I guess in terms of personal, like, I have been going, like, I have had, I guess, would you say a mental illness with, and especially, like, with self-harm and stuff. I think there's just like what is it called? What is it called? What is that word with an S? A stigma. Yes. I think there's a huge stigma around mental illness, and this is like going on to different discussion, not even just about, like, it is about this book, but just this huge stigma around mental illness, about how, like, people don't understand it, people who don't experience it for themselves, who are not undergoing any of these mental illnesses, have a completely different kind of mindset or how it actually feels to have a mental illness than the people who do actually have it. So I think this book is really important to show that you might see someone on the street who is like the people in the grocery store, how they saw Caden, right?
Yeah.
Like, you basically might see someone, like maybe someone you might want to avoid because they're doing something strange, but you actually have no idea what's going on in their lives. So I think it's a very important message. Just, yeah, I just, oh my God, someone
trying to say it's kind of, I wish, the message of that is to not automatically do assuming things, I think, was what was, I guess, like, because everyone was kind of like making the assumption of that, and what kind of frustrated me, I guess, was kind of putting him in that box. Yeah. I really like this quote I just found. Or maybe not. We'll just do you have any other thoughts? I don't know. This is one quote where she talks about how kids with mental illness get like swept under the rug.
What?
And I'm trying to find it, but I can't.
Oh wow, that would be.
Like dead kids are put on a pedestal, and mentally ill kids are like swept under the rug or something. Where is it? Do you remember that quote?
Wait. Wow, this is gonna take me a long time to find.
I don't know.
Where is it? I read something about a pedestal.
I have just like way too many stupid notes then.
I know, like, I'm like, where is it? I don't know. I just thought that this book, like, even with a lot of mental books that, like, encompass mental illness, it's very, I love how just putting them into YA literature, because they're very good reflections of what actual people with mental illness go through. And I think it's so important because, yeah, you got to break this stigma of how, I'm not even going to use the terms that people use, but there are some, like, terms that are used to kind of demean people's mental illness and to kind of take away their value and how important it is to the person who's experienced it. So yeah, I think this book is really important. I just personally value all books that discuss mental illness. That's just me and my preferences. But yeah.
I just love this book so much. There's so many like quotes from here. They're just like, they just make you stop and be like, whoa. And that's kind of like the only reaction I can say is just like, whoa, because it's just like.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we're going to like reference back to this book when we have like, maybe if we choose to do another book that deals with mental illness and mental health. I'm like 100% sure we're going to reference back to this book and talk about,
Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss?
Well, I keeping up like on there's a live chat, and then Monica, of course. Hello, Monica. Yeah. She says, who knew this book would make us analyze its cover really hard? And I just, yeah, that's just okay. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Thanks everyone.
Yeah, so we both, I think, really like this book, and it's just like so important, and I hope that if you read along with us, you also enjoyed this book. If you're watching this at a later time, hope you enjoy this book. Definitely feel free to add comments and questions later on. We will definitely try to look back at them and answer your questions if you want to discuss further, because I love this book, so I will discuss with you for forever on how amazing it is. Or if you did not like it, I'm sorry. And I will discuss with you the reasons why you didn't like it. Yeah, and I'm super excited for our next book. I only have a little sample here because it's not out yet.
It's so exciting.
Excited for this. And I'm also sorry we weren't able to like put recommendations for this past month.
Oh yeah, super sorry. April has been the worst month of my entire life, okay? Let's just put it that way. It was the worst month of my entire life. And the beginning of May, like I told you, AP week, that month I wanted to like, oh, it was so bad. So yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
So our next live show is probably going to be around mid-June. And we have our June book picked out already. And I guess that's all we really have to say. Do you have anything else you want to say, Alex?
Just thank you for joining us again. This is a really heated discussion. I really enjoy just, doing these things with Belinda and all you guys. Let me just post this.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun, and hoping we have some great stuff coming up. Yeah, so I think with that, we're gonna end this. Thank you so much for joining us. Sorry this is like been so late, but it was really fun discussing, and yeah, so I look forward to seeing you next month.
See you guys.
Bye.
Okay.